What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So today we need to talk about President Biden and why so many reports are now indicating that Biden only has about 48 hours left before he gets removed from the upcoming presidential ticket. Now, we got a lot of reports that have come out over the past 48 hours, and I want to address some of those. One of the big ones is that we are now hearing that mega PAC donors are potentially withholding about $90 million in funds. This is not all for President Biden. This is for Democrats as well. This is a big issue because, and I said this before, I talked about this here on the channel as well, that there was a pretty big donor. I didn't give the person's name. I didn't say what company they run, but they were withholding some money. Well, turns out they're not the only ones. Now, let's break this down. So, first thing, all I ask, again, just one thing, it takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. But let's begin. So first off, President Biden, based off all reports, is going to be ending his presidency after just one term. We are now hearing that he has, a handful of days to determine how he steps down. Right now, based off of these reports, the White House they are moving forward with a new candidate, but we do not know who that will be. We also don't know exactly how they plan to do that, because President Biden says he's running. That unless people say that he's going to lose, he's going to run. Well, then if you remember in the speech, then he whispered, nobody's saying that. Nobody. Yeah. People are saying he's going to lose. A lot of people. But here's where things are at right now. Reports are indicating that the White House, and this is where things get very interesting, because one of the leading candidates at this time for Democrats would be Vice President Kamala Harris. Well, according to reports, the White House has known about President Biden's deteriorating mental acuity for some time, but they attempted to cover it all up. Guess who would be covering it up as well? Vice President Kamala Harris, who would currently be the front runner for president. Yeah. So is that somebody that we want in charge, somebody that covered up another person's mental acuity? Probably not. Well, it goes on to say, this is why White House reporters feel misled. This is also why the House Republicans subpoenaed White House aides, because they wanted to know what is going on with President Biden, right? His mental state. This is also why not only the White House reporters were feeling misled, but this is why many mega donors say they are deciding to withhold roughly $90 million in donations until they get answers. Why would they give money to people that are going to lie to them to their face about what is currently happening? Now, I did talk to I wouldn't call this person a mega donor. Again, I'm not going to say the name of this person, but I talked to this person just briefly and asked, pretty much the same question. Are you going to be donating to the Democratic convention? And they said no. They're not going to be donating because they feel like Democrats lied to them for the past couple of years. We haven't seen President Biden do a solid, briefing, a solid speech, right? He doesn't come out into the press room and talk, right? He doesn't do these things. The White House has been keeping him pretty much, locked behind doors. And the only time he speaks, he has teleprompters right there with him, or there's somebody there to pretty much, whisk him away if he starts to get off track. Well, many people don't like this. Now, I told you guys this last week, that we only had a few days. That after a few days, President Biden would be required to step down. He hasn't done that yet, but it's not because Democrats feel that he's up to the task and he's going to be able to run the country for the next 4 years. That's not the reason why. According to reports, the reason why they're giving President Biden more time, well, it has to do with a couple things. First, they want to figure out a way to not force President Biden to step down, but where he comes to this decision on his own. He hasn't done so yet, but, and again, according to these reports, but they're giving him more time. The other thing is that Democrats don't know who can actually beat former President Donald Trump. Of course, publicly, they come out and say that President Biden's going to beat Trump. They say even if it's not former president, but Vice President Kamala Harris, she could beat former President Donald Trump. But then you look at the polls and it's, no, it's not so clear. But here's who they have on their short list of potential candidates to go up against former President Donald Trump. First is Vice President Kamala Harris. But like I said, she was part of the cover-up for President Biden. Is that the one we want in charge? Or there's Governor Gavin Newsom. Well, he's been passing some very interesting legislation down in California. Is that the person we want in charge of the entire country? Then there's Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. Right? Where do we go from here? Or there's another one, Pete Buttigieg. He's our transportation secretary. This is the short list of people that as of right now, based off a recent survey, they're all more favorable than President Biden is at this time. So, what I think is very interesting is that right now, the most likely outcome, President Biden steps down within the next week. But we are going to get the reports of President Biden ending his presidency likely in the next 48 hours. That is what we're hearing. And the reason why it's within the next 48 hours is because Democrats cannot wait any longer. I think we have like 116 days before the presidential election on November 5th. Democrats need to start campaigning more. They need to get out there. And whoever the next potential nominee is going to be, who's going to be on the ticket? It's going to be Harris. It's going to be Newsom, Whitmer, Buttigieg. We don't know. But Democrats need to have an answer for the American people very soon. And again, and I'll say this because there's still an option here. President Biden could continue the same path he's been on. Because, previously when he did the debate against former President Donald Trump, he said that he was in 15 different time zones in the previous week. No, he was in multiple time zones, but that was like a week before the debate. Before the debate, he was getting to bed early. He was trying to review and study and make sure he was practicing so that he was ready to go. Well, it wasn't so clear cut. But Democrats gave him the benefit of the doubt and said, yep, you can try again. He did a couple speeches, did a couple interviews. He struggled. And then the report was he has one more option. One more attempt to fix things. Well, technically two. One, he was going to give a speech at the NATO summit. And at the NATO summit, he was talking alongside of the President Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine, and he ended up calling him President Putin. He took a couple steps out from behind the podium, quickly came back and fixed his mistake, called him no, not Putin. Putin's who we're trying to beat. Okay, so that was the first one. Then in the speech that he gave, which was supposed to be unscripted, and he was going to have a Q&A at the end of it, which then President Biden pulled out a white piece of paper and said, oh, these are the names of the people I'm supposed to call on. I don't think he was supposed to say that. That made Democrats a little bit upset. But then, when his cabinet really cringed, was when President Biden decided to, when he was talking about Vice President Kamala Harris, and he ended up calling her Vice President Trump. And that's why he picked her. So I don't think things are going to go the way that President Biden wants them to. I think we are going to have a very interesting next few days. But over the next week, the expectation is we will have a clear idea of who Democrats are pushing forward. So as soon as we get more information on this, I promise I will bring you all the latest news and updates as soon as we get them. But as of today, that is what we know. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.